Presents. All right, welcome. All right. We'll get that worked out at some point. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say.
Okay.
I'm Father Mark Mary.
I'm Mother Clare.
I am a Franciscan friar of the Renewal.
I'm a sister of the Renewal.
And this is Ascension Presents. Mother Clare, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Father.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about listening.
Wonderful.
We're going to talk about listening. And so to kick it off, I'm going to listen to you talk about listening.
Well, thank you. How nice.
All right.
This is a beautiful topic. It's an important topic. It's interesting because I think we all kind of automatically might think we do this really well. I'm tempted to think that I'm a good listener, but I know I'm challenged all the time to listen better, to listen better. And it's so important, you know. When I've been listened to deeply, I've been healed by that. I've been healed by love come through listening. Because ultimately it's more than just hearing the words that a person says, but it's about receiving that person, not making a judgment on the person or assessing even necessarily what it is that's coming forth, but just about receiving them. So I think that's part of why this is such a great topic and so important, about really receiving the other.
But I was talking with some sisters about this not long ago, and I believe it was Caryll Houselander who said that you can listen somebody back to life. And there's something I think so true about that.
Absolutely.
Is you can like breathe the life back into somebody just by hearing them. And so it's such an important capacity, gift, tool, act of charity. And like you said, sometimes maybe we don't do it as well as we think. Perhaps this is one of the great gifts we can give to the world, is a renewal in listening. So Mother, if you could share some of what you've learned, particularly through spiritual direction school.
Oh, I'd love to. I went to a spiritual direction school down in Clearwater, Florida, and it was a fabulous experience. But learning to listen, I would mark as one of the key gifts or fruits or sort of results of that. And there's a very simple method that they teach, that I think very simple points that any viewer could kind of take to heart and apply in a family, in a marriage, in a work setting, in any human relationship. And the idea that they present is that the first thing is to get out of your own world. And it's a little bit counterintuitive if you think about it, because when we're having an exchange, and if you share something with me and it has to do with, let's just say, your relationship with your father, my natural tendency would be, I'm linking that to my own experience with my own relationship to my father. But good listening skills would be to set that aside, to set aside my own experience, to really get out of my own world. It's not about me, and to really let it not be about me for once, and to really lay that aside and hear you. Because the simple truth is, your experience with your father is your experience. And if I overlay that with mine, I'm no longer hearing you, and your experience isn't kind of living in me. I'm just thinking I'm back to my own experience. I've already sort of shut myself down to what it is that you're giving. So getting out of my world, number one. And two, then getting into your world. What are you saying? What are you not saying? What are you sharing? What are you giving in this story? So I thought those two things alone, with nothing else, you could revolutionize, a relationship. And then a third thing that's also extremely helpful and adds a deepened dimension, if I can listen to the words that you're saying with your mouth, but also listen with my heart to what you're giving from your heart. And that might include things that are being unsaid, and maybe emotions that are there, the undercurrent maybe of the words that you're saying. Can I listen for those? Can I feel for those? Can I receive those? And therefore get the bigger, deeper picture of what you're offering.
I've gone back over and over and over again in my own sort of prayer, and particularly in ministering to those who are struggling or hurting in some ways, to this raising of Lazarus. And there's something, Jesus is told, okay, Lazarus is sick, he's going to die. Jesus takes his time, he arrives. And he says, like, it's going to be for the glory of God. So Jesus knows that there's going to be something good that's going to come out of it. He knows that God's at work in the situation. But he arrives, and when he comes to Lazarus who's dead, he weeps. And for a period of time, for a moment, he simply enters into the suffering. And I really like that as sort of an approach or a paradigm to come to listening. Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's necessary just to be there and just to listen and just to try to experience what the person's saying and not to immediately speak, which is, it's a tendency for us, particularly in some religious circles, and it's well motivated to like, okay, I'm going to try to say something into it. I'm going to say it's going to be okay, or we just have to trust God, or this or that. And just in my own, one of the great joys of my priesthood is that I'm pretty continually walking with different individuals who have experienced some sort of difficulty or some sort of trauma. And one of the things they share with me is how difficult and actually painful it can be when someone says, well, okay, this person did this to you, but you need to forgive them. It's like, yes, but maybe for this time we could just hear the pain. Thoughts or?
Well, I couldn't agree more. Well said, and how true it is that it almost, you could just feel the validation of the thing by being able just to rest in it and to sit in it and not to have to fix it. Here, I've got the remedy. Let me give you the medicine that you need. And it's not that effective to do that. It actually can be counterproductive to always be sort of trying to hand out the solution, because what in fact is truer to my experience is that the Holy Spirit wants to give the remedy, and the Lord has healing for that person. It probably will come through forgiveness, but they need to receive that from the Holy Spirit and probably not from me. They need to come to the reality of forgiveness by the light of the Holy Spirit operating in their own heart, in their own prayer, that they can receive that. And I might help facilitate that by listening, by being there in that space of the grief, the weeping, but probably not just by saying, next step for you, kid, you gotta forgive, but just to let it be. Let it be for now.
Yeah. Often the remedy to a suffering or the remedy to a struggle or difficulty isn't speaking into it verbally, but listening. And often when somebody comes to me with a question, or they come to me with a controversy, or they have some sort of issue with the church or something that's happened like that, my response is going to be to ask them questions. What they don't really need is me immediately to speak into it. They need to be heard. They need to have their opinion reverenced. They need to be able to share their hearts and their sort of experience. And once they've shared that, perhaps in the same conversation, but perhaps down the road, the door is opened. Now trust has been built, and now I can sort of speak into it. But first, I need to listen.
Absolutely. And what you also might find, Father, too, at times, is that by giving the space for the person to just be in the experience and give the experience, that then as they go into their own prayer, they will come to it. And they may not need you or I to offer the solution. And how much more powerful it is, we all know that when we come up with the answer, and it's not us, of course, it's God in us. But there's this kind of a reverence that the priest or the spiritual director or the counselor, the friend, the mother, the father offers by not fixing it, by reverencing the action of the Holy Spirit that's working in the life of this person. So just to speak to why not to fix it, I might have the right answer, but it might not be the right time, might be not be the right place, might not be the right scenario. Yeah. So I just totally agree. Couldn't agree more with your approach. And
just in case there's any tendency to take us for saying what we're not saying, is we do understand there is a place as well, and there is a time for speaking. Yeah. And so we're not always just passive listeners, but often, especially if it's a deep grieving or a deep pain, it's the tendency would be, for the moment at least, just to sort of rest in listening. And then maybe down the road, there's a time to speak into it. All right, fair enough. So we thank you for listening. We'll be back again with Mother, and we invite you to pray, and God's listening to you for sure, and to put into practice some heroic listening in your day to day. And we'll see you again next week. We're pilgrims on this earth, little by little, poco a poco. We're going to make it. Vamos a llegar. We'll see you again. God bless you.